Um, lying. Let's talk about lying, scammers, and narcissists. They all go hand in hand. I was thinking about this morning. I don't know what it was. Something clicked in my head. I was thinking about, I was watching some movie or something. I don't remember, but it just came to me to talk about how there's a difference between lying and narcissist lying. And I know lying is lying. It's just being false. It's telling a false truth. But let me put it this way. When a normal person tells a lie, that they know that there's evidence out there that can come back on them, what they end up doing is they have to cover a lie with another lie. So, for example, you may tell your spouse or your boyfriend or girlfriend that you went out with friends and had some drinks or something of that nature, and then they find out that you weren't really with those friends. So you say, well, you have to come up with another lie. And it may not even be anything that big. It may just be something like, you didn't want to work that day, so you told your boss you were sick, and then your boss found out that you went over here to a concert or something the night before, and so it's like you have to cover a lie with another lie. Now, a narcissist doesn't look that far ahead. They don't think about, well, there's evidence out there. There's pictures of me at that concert. There's, my phone history shows, my location shows that I wasn't where I said I was. My spouse is going to find this out. But here's just like our local liar that we talk about on Facebook. The difference is they're not going to say, come up with another lie to cover that lie. They're just going to say, that's not true, that didn't happen. And they're going to try to convince the person they're talking to that did not happen. And they're going to stick to that no matter what evidence you show. No matter if you show video of them at the nightclub dance and they're telling you they were at home or at work. They're going to say, someone made that up about them. Someone, as she does. I hate to keep referring to her, but as she does, she'll say, the haters put all that together. They pieced it together. That never really happened. They took clips of me and they took screenshots and stuff, and they put it all together and made it look real. And they photoshopped it. And there are a few who will say, wow, I can't really believe that. That's so crazy that people out there have that kind of technology that they can do that. And others are going to be like, well, maybe somebody really did do that, but they question it, But that's the difference in lying. I mean, a normal, regular person lies for whatever reason, to get out of doing something, or because they know they're going to get in trouble or busted if they've done something wrong. And maybe you feel guilt about it, maybe you feel remorse, maybe you think, okay, I got by with it this one time, but I'm not going to try to let anything like this happen again because I don't want to have to lie and continue to lie. Narcissist doesn't think that way. They don't say, gosh, I got away with this. I'm never going to do it. They say, well, I got away with this. Let me see what else I can get away with. And they don't care if they get away with it because it doesn't really matter to them if they hurt your feelings or if they cause destruction in your life or people around them. They don't care. They don't think that far ahead. It's not like they're lying to cover, or lying to keep down trouble. They don't care if it causes trouble because it doesn't really affect them in the long run. They will pit people against each other. Now, a narcissist definitely does that. I hate to keep going back in my history, but it's just an example that I can use. And I know anybody who's here who's dealt with a narcissist already knows this, but you would take a narcissist, such as the one that I knew, and they build themselves up. When they're grooming you, they build themselves up to you as this perfect person that can do no wrong. But one thing that he did, and we all know other narcissists do this as well, is they make themselves to be this victim who was just misunderstood. Nobody, I didn't really do anything to these people. They either understood me or they disliked me from some past experience or something that someone else told them about me. And so you're pitying them. You're feeling like, oh gosh, I can't believe people would treat somebody like this. We see people in her lives, in her comments, saying things like that. It's because they're in that stage. They're in that grooming stage. They're new to it. And no amount of evidence that is on the awareness pages or anything is going to convince them otherwise until they see something that awakens them. And sometimes that happens and sometimes it does not, But he would say stuff like, this guy over here doesn't like me because some woman that he was dating or married to came on to me and had the hots for me, And this one over here doesn't like me because I told the truth about them. I outed them to somebody. They were doing something wrong, and I caught them on it, and I outed them to their family or their boss or whatever. And they would use things like that to make themselves the hero, make themselves this innocent victim who was just doing the right thing. So you, as the bombee, the love bombee, the groomed supply, are thinking, wow, this person has been so mistreated. I am going to show them the right way a friend would treat them, the right way a loved one would treat them. Until they start treating you that way, And then you're like, well, it's like take a big chunk of ice and you take an ice pick and you pick at it and you pick at it and you break it. This is what starts to happen to you. Little bitty cracks at first, little like particles start to come apart, and then it really starts to chip apart their whole persona, their whole personality, and everything about their life. And they're dodging all these other people. I had a friend during this time after the discard, and I still had his house keys, and I had I had a key to one of his vehicles, and I had a key to his house, and a couple of other things that I had, and I wanted to return them to him, but I didn't want to go to his house, and I didn't want to contact him personally, like call him. And so a friend of mine who actually knew him volunteered and said, give me the keys, I will take them down in the morning early while he's home, and I will just, knock on the door and hand them to him, or I will just lay them on his steps there by his back door. And I thought about it for a few minutes, and I said, no. I said, let him change his locks, because I don't want to involve you, because I told her, I said, here's what's going to happen. I said, he's going to start trying to either, one, put the moves on her and try to get her to divide me and her as friends by flirting with her or asking her out, or he would come back and tell me, oh, your friend came to my house. Did she tell you what happened? And just like create this imagination for me, and I'd be sitting there going, well, is she lying to me or is he lying to me? So I told my friend, no, I don't want to involve you, because it's either going to cause trouble like between me and you, because he's going to lie on you and he's going to flirt with you and he's going to come on to you and try to get you involved in this, or one, he's going to come at me, jumping on to me. Why did you send your friend to my house? Why did you tell people what's going on between us? Because they're very secretive. Even when stuff starts to fall apart and they are no longer interested in you, they still want you to keep their secrets. They still expect you to be subservient to them. We see that with CMC as well when she goes off on people, and people would say, well, you promised to do this. You promised us as supporters that you were going to come into the supporters group and do exclusive content, and you didn't. She gets angry at them. How dare you say that? How dare you tell people here in this open forum what I told you in private? So that's just one more way of keeping their lies going, keeping their little world intact. And everybody already knows this. I'm just sharing this because it was on my mind. I could sit here and I could do a playlist of nothing but his lies that he told me, and how those lies led to problems in my life, but not his. He got away with everything that he did to everybody. He's left me alone since then. Now, the experts, or the people on YouTube who make these videos where they're instructing and trying to bring about healing, which is kind of what I do, but I more or less just talk and give my opinions about it and just tell what happened to me and how the aftermath affected me and what I've learned from it. And that's what they do too, but then they try to tell you A, B, C, and D, here's how to get past all this, and here's what to expect. And one of the big things that they will say is you don't want to have any kind of contact with anybody in their family, anybody in their circle. And I have not. I've not had any contact with any of these people. But they will also tell you, block everybody on social media that is in any way, shape, or form related to or involved with that person. Well, if I did that, I'd be blocking a lot of people, because we had a lot of mutual people in our lives. But I don't even know that he's even, I've not even seen him on social media. Whatever happened between him and the last woman he was with must have been something really big, because he has really, really pulled back. I've not seen him on any comments or anything. But I will say this about the woman who came before me, the woman that I had problems with because of him, that he created. So she had a problem with me, and I guess looking at it from this point of view now, in hindsight, I can understand her problem with me, because she saw me as this woman that came in and divided her and him, and I didn't. I was under no impression that the two of them even were still speaking to each other. The way he made it sound was like, it was long over, but it really wasn't. But anyway, we had problems for a while between the two of us. It was more her toward me, I guess you could say. But after I stopped talking to him and having anything to do with him, I had no more problems with her. I just kind of stood back and just let him go and do his own thing. But I will say this about her. I've noticed when she and I have mutual friends, and I've noticed some comments that she makes in some of those people's posts on Facebook, that she has changed her behavior. She used to be known, and not just by him, but other people that knew her to be this very aggressive, gruff, hateful kind of person, that just someone who always had this negative attitude. But she's changed from what I can see in the comments, because she's now more forgiving and talks a lot about God and, being grateful for life and things like that. So I think maybe she's finally starting to heal from him. During my process of healing, I never considered what she was going through. It took me a long time before I finally realized she not only had to heal from him the same way that I did, but she had to go through it more than once because she kept taking him back to her. She kept taking him back. So I guess if I had to make a wild guess based on the knowledge that I've learned, I would say at least 3 or 4 other times he did this to her. He would leave her for someone else, be with that person, and then something would happen that would cause him to go back to her, and she would welcome him right back. But I got to thinking about that a while back when I learned that he and this other woman had divorced. And I thought, I wonder if he tried to go back to this other lady. Because their children are all out of the house now and grown. So she really would have no reason. Because I believe all the other times that he would try to go back to her, or did go back, she took him back, he would use the children and say, well, let's try to work it out for them. And she would, of course. And I know people are thinking, well, why are you worried about all this? Well, I think a lot of it probably had to do with the fact that and this is kind of not typical of all narcissists, especially men, but he earned a really good living. And it could be that she liked having that extra security, Because if you watch if you watch some of these people on YouTube that talk about male narcissists, many of them they just say they're nasty and they're slugs and they won't work and they just want to mooch off of somebody else and take and take and take. But I did not experience that from him. He had a good job and he worked every day. He was dedicated to his job, more dedicated to his job than he was to his people in his life, human beings, he has. But I just got to thinking about all that, and I just got to thinking about how narcissists get away with so much. I think one reason, in my mind, that they get away with so much is because by the time that we, the victims, start to figure them out, we don't want any contact with, we don't want anything to do with them. We're either so frightened by them, because some of these people are very abusive, not just mentally and emotionally, but physically. I never experienced that with him. He was never physically aggressive or violent with me. Now, I have talked about some things that went on in a personal, behind closed doors, if you know what I'm talking about. Narcissists. I made a video on YouTube here a while back, and I read from an article about that very subject, about how they will use sex to manipulate. And they get you to a point that you are so fearful to even make a move. And I didn't know other people went through this until I started to heal from it. And then I started reading about it, and then I got onto that subject, and I started reading that article. And I could envision me and him together in bed, and it was like everything the article was saying was what he would do to me during that time. And I will post a link to that video when I can find it in the comments. So if anybody's interested in going back and hearing about that. But that was as aggressive as he ever got with me. But with a narcissist, it's like y'all remember these, if you're my age, you probably remember them, those little paddle boards, that had like the little ball on it, and you would hit them and they would bounce out and come back. That's what a narcissist does to their victim. They, throw you out there, and it's like casting a fishing line. They throw you out and pull you back, And he did this to me for several years. And this other woman before me, who I had this disdain and anger toward for a long time, because a lot of it, now that I look at it, a lot of it was just hearsay from him, things he would tell me. And she and I did have a couple of moments between each other where we had words, or we had like just kind of, how it is when the new woman meets the old woman, or whatever you want to call it. But I didn't have any feelings like that toward her, not until I was attacked by her, and attacked with the smear campaign, So she was undoubtedly, for a long time, she was kind of like a flying monkey for him, because she covered for him. She allowed his behavior, and I know some people are thinking, well, and I even ask myself, what would I have allowed, what would I have put up with, and what would I have covered with my family and friends had I stayed in a relationship with him? If our relationship had not ended and we had stayed together, and we were even still together today, what kind of life would I be living? And I'm grateful, and I thank the good Lord every day for that discard. Now, like I said, the discard is a word that I don't even like to use, because narcissists never throw you away. You're always on their list, Nowadays, I sound like I'm 100. Now people have their phones, they have their contacts in their phones. A narcissist, they may delete your number from their phone, but they keep you in their little book, in their little folder, because there may come a day when nobody else is available to them, so they will go through and they will think of one that they used to be able to reach out to. And that may happen. That may happen someday to you or to me. We have to be prepared for it. People would say, like, there's this one guy on here that I watch, Narcology Unscripted. He talks a lot about the Mrs. A and the Mrs. B. Now, the Mrs. A is the person that wants nothing to do with the narcissist. Once it's over, it's over. They will scream from the mountaintop how much that they are glad to be away from that person, and that they don't want anything to do with them. They're clean and free from that abuse, and clean and free from that. And the Mrs. B is kind of like, well, maybe if he calls me, I'll talk to him. But I don't want anything. I don't want a relationship with him. To the B. There was a long time there where I was a B. I did make I would accept contact from him when he would reach out to me. And now I like to think that I'm an A. But, even some of the A's may not see it coming. So, I don't know. But I don't even know how I got started talking about this when I came on here. Basically was talking about lies of narcissists. But it's all connected. Like that's where I'm at right now. I mean, I do know that that's where I'm at right now. But I want those people to even know and be prepared for the inevitable Hoover. And they would sit there and they would say, well, there's never going to be a Hoover because I'm never going to have any contact with them. Well, how do you know? Seriously, how do you know that they're not going to show up and out of the blue? And I guess what I'm saying is if you run into them, where would you go? You know what I mean? It's like, would you jump in your car and just take off running? I actually had that happen to me one time. I had no contact with him in a while. And I was out one day, and I pulled into the parking lot of this grocery store. And I get out, and I go in, and I'm walking in the, you know how these grocery stores have, like, double doors on one end? The opening doors, the automatic doors, and then down on the other end, there's, like, this corridor there where they keep the shopping carts and things. So I walk in on one side, and I've got my purse. I'm sitting my purse up into the little cart, and I look up, and there he comes into the door down on the other end. And he saw me, and I saw him. And he reaches to get a shopping cart, and I just turn and get my purse and turn and walk out and get back in my car and leave. And I kicked myself for a long time for that, because it was like I went into flight mode, that fight or flight. And I definitely went into flight. And I kicked myself because I could envision him having this victory over me, But I did the right thing. It's always best to walk away from that situation and not to, try to interact with the narcissist or even to avoid them in a public place. If I had gone into that store, I'm sure we would have passed each other in the aisles. He would have made sure of that, I'm sure. So it's always best to continue to walk on. But anyway, I got started talking on a completely different subject. But if you ever encounter a narcissist, and if you are on Facebook on the CMC awareness groups, then you definitely encounter one every day. So anyway, to wrap this video up, I just wanted to come on here and talk about lying and how people seem to have this shocked look on their face, or even if you can't see their face and they're just typing their comments in the comment sections, they're dumbfounded, and they're like, I can't believe she just said that. Well, why can't you just believe it? Why can't you believe it? You'll never get the truth out of a narcissist, and even if they stand there and tell the truth, they can't even tell the truth and just say the truth. They have to add to it and embellish it and make it a different truth. They will take the truth and add something to it that sounds so crazy that you don't know whether it's the truth or not, because they're so used to lying, and they're so used to twisting everything around to either become the victim, the hero, or just putting a spin on everything. That even when they try to tell the truth, they can't even to just tell the truth, just flat out. So and that's even a part of a narcissistic tactic to keep you guessing. Well, is that the truth or is that the truth? So you're always questioning yourself. That's what a narcissist sets out to do, is to destroy your ability to decipher the truth, to keep you guessing if you're they gaslight you. That's called gaslighting. It's called gaslighting, and it makes the victim, it makes the person that's questioning them question themselves. Did I just hear that right? And then you may go over here and talk to someone else later on and say, well, this is what happened. No, that's not what happened. This is what happened. So you're like I said earlier about my friend, when my friend volunteered to take it and give him the keys, and I said, no, I don't want you to do that. I said, but because here's what did actually happen later on when he did hoover me. He tried to divide me. He actually ended up helping to cause the divide between myself and one friend. This friend that I had was friends with his ex. And he used her to say, well, she's been over here talking to my ex, or who at that time they were actually still together. I know this is all so crazy, right? It's like this maze of twisting and turning. But basically what he tried to do was to tell me that this friend, this middleman friend, was bringing evidence and information about me back to that camp and bringing information from her over to me. Well, she never really brought information to me until after, later on down the line, she did say, well, did you hear about that or this? But here's something that happened. The narcissist actually helped me. And I know that people are going to say, what? You actually have something good to say about a narcissist? When he told me that, it made me question that friend enough that I withheld any conversation that I had with her after that. I withheld anything because I didn't know. And that was a form of him gaslighting me, but it actually ended up helping me because, as it turned out, she was kind of shady. And I made a playlist, a 3 or 4 part video in at least 3 or 4 parts about her and about what happened and what unfolded later on between me and her and between her and other friends. And it's called The Flying Monkey Female, Narcissist Female, or The Flying Monkey Friend. I can't remember now, but it's on my YouTube channel. But that actually helped me. He wasn't intending to help me. He was intending to try to divide me from her, because that's what narcissists do. They try to break you up. They try to break up your friendships. They try to break you up from your family members. They don't want you to have anything to do with anybody in your life because they want to keep you over here isolated. So that when the time comes, you're so lonely and you're so desperate for somebody to talk to. You're so desperate for someone to listen to you or to share your stories with that you turn back to them. And they know that. They will have you, the way that they come at you in the beginning, and they're this victim and they're misunderstood. And people talk mean about them and say bad things about them and hate. They're haters, you know. They'll have you feeling that way about yourself. They'll have you saying, well, this person over here turned on me. And they'll have you playing the role of victim the same way that they did. And they're going to be there for you because they understand you. Oh, I've been through that too, you know. You remember? I told you all about it. So you are being gaslighted and you're being like, here we go again, you know. And that's kind of what this guy was talking about when he talks about the Mrs. A and the Mrs. B. The Mrs. B would fall for that. The Mrs. B would be lonely and desperate enough, or lonely and still confused enough that they might give in and talk to the narcissist and buy into all that, which I did. I was a Mrs. B for a while. But the Mrs. A's would just laugh it off and say, I'm going on, get on with my life. Whoever's there for me is there for me, and whoever is not is not. And that's where I'm at right now in my life. And I just kind of keep to myself. And I kind of feel like, well, you know, it's like there's this meme that goes around on social media that says, I felt guilty for not picking up the phone and calling people, but I realized the phone works both ways. That's kind of where I'm at right now. I just feel like, why bother these people when they don't seem to be all that bothered with me not bothering them? You know what I mean? From people. We need to take a break from social media. We need to take a break from our own thoughts. And so what I do now, mostly when I'm online, a lot of times, is I listen to podcasts, or I go to YouTube and I look at videos that have nothing to do with this subject, but you are new to a narcissist, and you don't, to use the word narcissist, you don't come up with that word right away. I didn't come up with that word for 3 years with this guy. So when you're going through all that, when you first meet them, they're so wonderful. They're so perfect. even when you catch them in little things that don't sound quite right, even when you pick up on little, like a little story or something they tell you, and you have this little click, click, click in your head saying, that doesn't sound right, and you're questioning it. You feel guilty. You feel angry with yourself for questioning that, because here's this perfect person. How could you say those things about them? How could you look at them in that way, you know? But eventually it all starts to unfold, and that word narcissist comes out of the blue, and you finally start to get it. That's not even the end of it. That's just kind of the beginning of it, because you start, you, like myself, go down a rabbit hole and just start looking for more clues and more things you might have missed. Okay, I got to keep my guard up, and I got to watch for these signals and red flags, you know. But just, if you're going through this healing process from narcissism, just stick to it. Go down that rabbit hole. Read as much as you can about narcissism. Watch videos. Don't make it your entire life, but make it your life's mission to help others and to bring the word to other people about narcissists, even when they are denying it, you know. You're never going to convince someone who's in the relationship with a narcissist and it's ongoing. You're never going to convince them. Just like with CMC. The people that are her staunch supporters and that comment about how great she is, nobody in the awareness pages are ever going to convince those people otherwise. They have to wait until it happens to them. Just like with someone in a relationship with a narcissist. You have to wait until they see it for themselves. And sometimes they'll see it and they'll keep going back. They'll see it a third time, a fourth time, a fifth time. And you're just sitting over here like with your catcher's mitt on, you know. But after a while you get to a point that maybe you take the catcher's mitt off and just say, you know, I've done all I can do. Well, anyway, I appreciate y'all for listening. I know I get carried away and change the subject 25 times, but I appreciate y'all. Thanks for listening. Have a great Sunday.